It is time for Political Breakfast. Sine, die, Looms. Still, there are lots of bills for Georgia legislators to sort through before tomorrow. Strategist Brian Robinson and THARON Johnson are here this morning. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning. Before we sort through what's happening under the Gold Dome, let me ask you both: is all the President Trump tariff talk that is dominating the news this morning? Do you think that's steering the attention away from some of the important bills that are being tossed around the legislature today? Brian,
Let me
I'll start
speak to
with
that
you.
first.
Yeah, go
Because
ahead.
I was, I do the communication side of this business. And so I was working with some national outlets yesterday because of the state House Democratic walkout on the issue banning taxpayer funded transgender surgeries for state prisoners, which is one of these things that conservative media really loves to talk about. It was, it's a juicy topic. It's got some drama involved. And everybody was like, love the topic. Worst possible day to be pitching me on this because all of the world is talking about the tariffs. And so they were very single-minded on the national level that a local story or a state story really couldn't break through. So yes, your theory is correct. And I lived it.
You lived it firsthand. Theron, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think I have the reverse sort of perception on it. And I'm not saying B Rob is wrong. He's actually right. But at the Capitol, Lisa, which I was there when the walkout occurred, it definitely dominated the entire rest of the day of the session. I mean, let's just take our listeners and what happened. I mean, you had the entire House Democratic caucus walk out of the chamber. Not only did they walk out of the chamber, Lisa, they came down the stairs, did a very, very brief press conference on the south end of the Capitol, the south stairs, and then they walked in a very, peaceful, nonviolent way. Went to the north side of the stairs, did a press conference, and that's what the local people saw. So this was very symbolic, and I've been lobbying at the Capitol on and off since 2004. This is the first time that I witnessed a caucus stand together, and it's really quickly. This is also a caucus who stood together against the tort reform bill as well. Even though it passed by one vote, you still had every single member but three stand against the tort reform bill. So this was a symbolic move, and I think it's more to come possibly on Friday.
Wow. Um, Religious freedom that passed last night without a lot of fanfare, right, Brian? Lawmakers in Georgia's House passed that controversial bill, and it was a little controversial last session, but that made it through quietly.
Well, the true contrast is in 2016. There had been some bubbling up of the RFRA issue after the Supreme Court decision that legalized gay marriage. And so you saw some backlash to that really across the country. And the religious freedom efforts were part of how conservatives were trying to protect themselves from, being forced against their religious views to participate or have their organization participate in a marriage that they didn't morally agree with. I think the heat on that issue has gone off significantly over these 11 years that we've had legalized gay marriage. We also now have a federal law in place that protects it, which I support. I'm glad to see that we can move past this issue. Obviously, we would never want to step back on people who are married and have families and all that at this juncture. And I'm all for them having that right. So today, that issue's taken away from this. So this is often in practice more used for people of minority religions in this country who may need protections because local authorities don't really understand their practices and may be a little prejudiced toward them. So in practical effect, that's how this law will impact Georgians, if at all. Many of these rights are already guaranteed by the First Amendment.
Yeah, Governor Kemp commended the bill's passage, and he promises to sign it into law. Theron, what are you watching closely today?
Well, just to kind of pick up on religious freedom, it's got to go back to the House, and B Rob knows this, right? This is going to be a fight. So you haven't heard the last of this bill, but also I'm sorry, the 127, a anti-DEI bill
Hmm.
goes back to the House. But while
Hmm.
the governor is going to sign religious freedom, Democrats and a lot of supporters were very disappointed with that vote. But the one that I'm watching is House Bill 127. This was a bill that basically eliminates and really diminishes a lot of DEI efforts that bipartisan elected officials were very supportive of, Lisa, just a few years ago. And so now it passed late last night. The Senate was in till a little around midnight, a little over. So that goes back to the House as well. But we got a lot of bills that are still in the Senate and the House. So I think this is going to go down to the wire.
Brian, what are you watching?
Well, I want to circle back to that walkout by the Democrats because I just think it's a political miscalculation. They may think they're standing on principle, and there may be some media outlets out there that portray it as that. I see it as a stand on political miscalculation. No Georgian thinks that their tax dollars should go towards trans surgeries for state prisoners. This isn't even like a 55-45 issue. This is a 90-10 issue. And I don't even know who those 10% are, right? Everybody agrees that this is the right policy. The Democrats are making this stand on something that's purely symbolic, saying, hey, this doesn't really affect anybody. This isn't a real issue. Well, then fine. Just vote for it. There were state Senate Democrats who did. That would have been the smart path here. If you don't want Republicans to get juice from this squeeze, then go along with it. Because no one in your constituency really is against what they're doing.
That's not true. Real quick, Lisa, listen, it was a trap, right? The Republicans are forcing Democrats, many of whom live in, districts that do have transgender families, right, and do care about this issue. I agree with B. Rob. Overwhelmingly, yeah, people definitely don't want their tax dollars being spent, but this is not even happening in Georgia, and it's not even legal. And so what the Democrats are doing, Lisa, is that you're not going to trap us bringing an unnecessary vote around something that's, one, not legal in Georgia currently, and two, it's not happening. So yeah, it still passed, right? To your point, Brian, but I do think that this caucus should be commended, Lisa, at a time where you see the Republicans fighting each other and Democrats in Washington. The House caucus are definitely standing strong on some issues.
Quickly, on a national level, what did you both think of Cory Booker standing
Oh
for
man,
25
I love
hours?
Cory Booker. Lisa, now let me go first on this one since B. Robin jumping in this morning. Look, what Cory Booker did, Lisa, it's not so much what he said. I mean, of course, I love that he invoked John Lewis, right? And that's what I've been trying to figure out. What would my hero be saying in this chaotic, crazy time that we're seeing in Washington? But beyond what he said, which was 25 hours of a very, very sensible argument resisting this mission that the Trump administration is on, the fact that he did it and he got an applause from his Republican Senate mates and Democratic mates, this has now propelled him to me being the face of a resistance. How you can stand up to a radical, disruptive Trump agenda, but do it in a way that's factual, but also that is not disruptive.
Brian, got about 15 seconds.
Look, Democrats wanted a face for the opposition. Maybe Cory Booker gave them one. I will remind you, Strom Thurmond held the record before fighting against civil rights. At the end of the day, he didn't win.
Brian and Theron, as always, thank you for your perspective. We'll talk next week.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day. Happy signing
Bye-bye.
out.